Hello, everyone, and welcome to Radiant Pearls Ministries. I'm Jeanette Bradley.
And I'm Justina Sanchez. We are so excited to have you with us today on another episode of Radiant Pearls Ministries. Today, we're going to be diving into what it looks like to walk out your faith in the marketplace. Jeanette, we know that you are an educator, director of a preschool. Can you show us in which ways have you brought the kingdom into that atmosphere?
Well, you know, my heart and passion is for women and children to know their identity and to show them that they're valuable. So as an educator of young children, I get the opportunity every day to speak life into children, to let them know that they're valuable, let them know that they're important, and let them know that they're worth it. So to be able to do that every day and pass on my lifelong message is a huge blessing.
I love that you do that, because when you have these little ears and little eyes watching you, and they're so impressionable, and it's so important that we speak that life into them and over them and encourage and build them up at such a young age, right?
Right. I had the opportunity to let one of the girls know she had made a mistake, and you know, sometimes they're like, I'm stupid, you know, or why do you say she's special and not me? Am I special too? And so I had the opportunity to let her know, you're special no matter what, and whether you make a mistake or you don't, or if somebody else is wearing a princess dress and I tell her that her princess dress is beautiful, it doesn't change who you are. And you know, as kids, even as adults, oftentimes we're just trying to figure out where we fit in. And so I'm really grateful not only that I was able to figure out my value and my worth, but also to be able to pass that on. It's a big deal.
Absolutely. And I know that you are so good at sharing that with your teachers, right? The teachers that work alongside you, and letting them know who God says they are and calling out the best in them and who He has created them to be, right? Can you share with us a little bit about the way that you have been able to support and encourage your staff?
Yes. Well, I'm so blessed because, you know, God is, He hears us and He answers our prayers. And so one of the things that I've asked for is that God would give me love for people. And so I love being around these kids, and I feel as if they're my own. I'm very protective of them, but I've also just grown to love this beautiful staff that I have. And so many of the women really don't even know how valuable they are, even to me, but much less God. And so what I always tell them is, they'll say things like, Miss Jeanette, you make me better. Aww. And I told one of them yesterday, I don't. You were great before I came, and you'll be great when I leave. I just simply hold up a mirror so you can see what I see, what God has shown me about you. And so this year we were able to do our first annual retreat and refreshing. And one of the things that we did was a talent show. And I asked the Lord, what is it you want me to do? Do you want me to tell jokes? Do you want me to dance? Do you want me to sing? I don't care. I'll do it. Whatever. You know, like I'm all about making people laugh, and you know, I want people to be happy and experience joy. And so he said, well, what is it you desire the most for them? And I said, well, for them to know who they are and that they're really loved. And so it's so funny because the theme was this crown, and the whole entire retreat, as I was planning it with God, turned into this whole princess theme. And so for my portion of the talent show, I briefly shared my journey into discovering that I am a princess, that I am so valuable and I'm loved by God. And so I got a crown for each one of them, and I said, you know, this is a crown. So the person that created it said it was a crown, and I could call it a Twinkie, or I can call it a tire, or I could run it over, and it's still a crown. You know, that's what it was created to be. And I said, and you are created by God to be a daughter of the king, a valuable possession that he gave his life for, and you are of great worth, a precious gem, and you're a princess. And so I put the crown on my head, and I had asked the ladies to all fill out some papers that say, give me some words about your coworkers. And then I typed them all into a crown and had them framed with these beautiful frames. And then we called each one up one at a time and read what it said, and then they proceeded to crown each other. Oh. And I said, and it was just like crying.
So beautiful.
And I said, I have tried I've tried to display honor and respect towards everybody since I got there. And so I said, please stand up and honor Princess Gina. And so they would clap and they honored her. And most of those women, if not all of them, had never experienced honor like that before, whether it's because of their upbringing or because of the culture, or, we had talked about living with people who are in pain themselves. And so a lot of times, we get treated out of the pain that the other people are suffering. And just to see them just feel like a princess and really believe it for the first time was incredible. And so I went into my room that night, and we had this beautiful Airbnb, and I went in my room and I could hear them laughing. And the next morning they got up and they were making food together, and I didn't go out there because that's what was supposed to happen. They were supposed to laugh and love on each other, and I just wanted to give them space to do that. It was so amazing.
That is so beautiful, and so transformative, right?
Yes.
For each one of these women that got to be a part of it. I got to see all the preparation that went into it, and the way that you asked the Lord every step of what he wanted to do. What did he want to be involved? What was going to be a part of this, from the location to the events that happened to the food, all of it. You brought in the Lord, and it just sounds like it was nothing short of spectacular.
Well, that's what happens when you partner with God. When you say, yes, I'll do it, And so it's truly so exciting for me and a privilege to be able to love on people that way. And God gave me the resources to do it. He picked the right place. And it was truly beautiful. And just like you said, that's something that's going to live on forever. So they all have their crowns at home. They all have those words. And the words speak life. It speaks to your heart. And just when everybody came back, there's a total different feeling. There's a total camaraderie there, and they call it their home away from home. Oh. It's really great. And being at, my school, I'm the owner, and so the director, and so I can decide what we're going to do or change my mind, or I make the rules. But when you're in the big corporate world, where you're not the owner of the company, you're in management of some form, but you really have to tread on water like very carefully. So how do you navigate that?
It's not always easy, but definitely you let the Lord lead.
Yeah.
Right? So I go into, if you aren't familiar with my background, I am an engineer. Started as electrical safety, working in the lab, and now quality, where I go and audit labs like the one I used to work in. And it is very much a corporate arena. It's not in ministry per se, like in the church, as other career fields are. And so bringing the kingdom everywhere I go, I know is why God has me there. Yeah. I know that's why he wants me to do what he allows me to do. I always know that I have, in the natural, yes, I have an assignment that needs to get done. I have a job that I need to do, and do it to the best of my abilities. I think that's always a priority in my mind, is to be the very best that I can be, to add value, to be a benefit when I go on site. Something that I feel that is important that we lead well, we do our responsibilities and everything we've been entrusted with well. So that is a top priority. But also, I know that in the supernatural, God has a plan. He has an assignment that he wants carried out. So there are plenty of times where I go in and people are dealing with real life all the time. Right. Health struggles, mental struggles, physical or emotional struggles. And so the Lord, I remember one time he gave me a word of knowledge, and I just knew that I was supposed to intercede on this person's behalf and start praying for them. You know, he revealed something to me, and sure enough, a couple days into the audit and days later, my colleague opens up, feels comfortable enough and opens up, and I'm thinking, I knew it. I knew that something was going on. And so that I really utilized that opportunity to pray for that person continually. I still am regularly praying for that person and praying for breakthrough, because, you know, the struggles are real that people deal with. And there was another time where I try to be and bring the ecclesia in real life, like now for this day and time, doing church. Maybe we don't call it church, but I gather people, try to gather the people in the office, try to gather the ladies in the office, and let's break bread together. Let's share stories about our personal lives. Let's break down the walls and build relationship between each other. Let's encourage each other. Let's strengthen the relationship that you guys have, so that when I'm not here and I leave and go back to my home, you guys still have these experiences and these insights to each other's lives that make those relationships more valuable. So I always ask of the Lord, what do you want to do every morning? What do you want to do here? I'm here. You brought me here. There's something you want carried out. So I try to make that priority as well.
So you don't go into the workplace and say, you need God now.
Not quite. That wouldn't be drawing in people with his loving kindness. I think if anything, that kind of approach scares people, quite honestly. But we love through our actions and, like you said, speaking life over people, encouraging them, supporting them, identifying when there's something that you see is a soft spot or a sore spot, and just kind of trying to nurture that within them, trying to support that and say, hey, it's gonna be okay. I'm believing that it's gonna get better, and if I have an experience, share that experience of how I came through on the other side, and knowing that you can too. You can come through that.
Yeah, I like that saying, people don't care until they know that you care. And that's what you're doing. You're going in there and you're seeing them, and you're listening to their hearts, and you're bringing light to a dark world. And that's our assignment, right?
That is, yeah. Oftentimes it may feel like it's like a therapy type sessions, because yes, we are talking about a lot of technical matters, but there are times where conversation happens and people want to share stories, and they start feeling comfortable and opening up with you, and it allows me opportunity to encourage them and say, it's gonna be okay. You know, it's gonna get better, or really well done. I see how far you've come. I see the work that you've put in and the dedication, and things have totally turned around. Great job. You know, just encouraging people as best I can in every environment.
And you probably find often that when you've said something like that, that was actually what somebody needed that day, because we don't know what they went through that morning. We don't know if they have a sick parent, or if they're going through a divorce, or they're suicidal. We don't always know what people are walking through. Some people share, some people don't. But just being there and giving them that word may have been what saved their life, or gave them hope that they didn't have. And you had talked about, there was somebody there, you said the Lord had given you a word of knowledge. So for somebody who might not be familiar with what that is, can you explain that?
Sure. So a word of knowledge is when you walk into an atmosphere and maybe something on you starts to hurt, and you're like, that hurt wasn't there before. My elbow's really hurting. I haven't done anything. I didn't have that before I walked in. And recognizing that could be God that's speaking to you and saying, Lord, what do you want to do? And once I've identified, like, this is the Lord talking. He wants to do something, and me being an open vessel for him to do what he wants to do, and say, Lord, okay, lead me in that way. Holy Spirit, would you reveal what is going on here? What is going on? Why am I feeling this? And who does it belong to? And then the Lord so kindly, doesn't have to, but he so kindly brings us in and lets us be a part of that person's healing or of that person's journey and bringing them through to the other side of that. And so a word of knowledge is really when the Lord speaks to you and it's about or for somebody else.
So I've seen many occasions where somebody will feel like they'll have a pain in their headache, or like you said, their elbow or their leg or their back, that they didn't have when they walk into the room, and then they have that opportunity to heal somebody because God was highlighting to them what somebody else was going through. So I've heard that happen a lot. For me, I don't typically get that. What I usually get is like I will hear something. I will hear like a word for a person, and what I try to do is I'll clear my mind and I'll say, Lord, what is it that you have for this person, and like try to completely stop thinking about everything. Holy Spirit, give me something for this person. So I try to stop thinking, and then whatever comes, I believe that's from God. And so one of the things that I do is for our book signings is when I sign a book for somebody, a lot of times it'll be parents or grandparents getting them for children. And I believe that, this is a tool that the Lord uses. We have the opportunity, the privilege to speak into the life of other people. And so even if that child can't read at this time, what if they're walking through this difficult season in 15 years or in 20 years, and they just happen to open that word and it was so right on for them. So I always say, God, give me a word for this person. I clear my mind, and then whatever he tells me, and it's always different, so I know it's from him. And a lot of times with the person that I'm writing it for that's standing there will read it and go, wow, like this is right on. So it's very cool to get, a word of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love the way that he speaks to you in that way too. There's so many other ways that I think that God talks to us, right? And as we grow in him, in our relationship with him, we get to understand and hear his voice, right? And he becomes a little bit more familiar to us and be like, that you told me that before, and sounds similar to the same way that I heard it. So that could very well be the way that you are hearing God, whether it's just a knowing in your heart and in your spirit and you walk that out, or whether it's hearing, or some people get visions, right? Or other people get word of knowledge. He speaks, and everybody doesn't just get one way that God speaks to us. We can be bilingual or trilingual, there's so many different ways that he can speak to all of us, and they're like muscles. Like the more that we use them and walk them out, the more that that we tap into and get closer to him and hearing his voice in so many different ways. So,
and then sometimes I go, oh Lord, you told me that before, and why didn't I listen? Oh, sorry, God, me again.
I know.
But
I hear you.
another way is just to feel, right? So like I'm a feeler, and I can walk into the room and I can feel, I'm very sensitive to what is happening in the room. Like if somebody's upset or somebody's having a hard time, and God will take me and give me literal empathy for that person. And that's also a way that he allows us to be a light in the world. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, and I just love how he brings us together and allows us to complement each other in our gifts, and those people in our relationships. And then we can go forth and bring his kingdom in greater ways and greater capacities, because you're a feeler and I am a knower. I get these intuitions and instincts from the Lord. And when I act on them, like sometimes I'm like, oh, why didn't I listen, Lord? Like you said. But when I act on them, you really see him accomplish his will through that, right? When he asks us to do something, just like these books, he asked us to do something, and I don't know how to do it, but okay, Lord, I know that I heard you say that, so we're just gonna put one foot in front of the other. Let's walk this out and see his faithfulness through that journey. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful way to grow and live your life.
and working together, right? So you're a knower, I'm a feeler, and how often do we finish each other's sentences? It's crazy.
All the time.
God will give me half of the idea, and he'll give her the other half, and I'll say, well, you do you know what we're supposed to do for this next segment? Like, I'm hearing this, and she goes, oh, well, that makes perfect sense because I'm hearing this. And we're like, oh, it goes together, and that's the way he does it. So he shows us that he has us working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's such a gift too. I feel like that's so special, and I'm really grateful that he does that and allows us to do that with him. I know that I have just seen you walk that out where you work. I have seen you live in the promises of God where you work. I have seen literally his kingdom break through earth and flood your school and flood that atmosphere. If you don't know, we met because my daughter went to her preschool. And so I was on the receiving end of feeling that love, the love of Jesus, and not necessarily at the time knowing what it was, just knowing that I was feeling this encouragement and support and joy. And it's like so many families get to feel from you because you live that every day. You embody his characteristics and you bring that into your workplace. And I know that there's so many families and children and teachers that have benefited from you living your life as a faithful woman of God. So can you share with us a little bit about how you do that? How do you practically walk that out daily and share that with your school and your families and your parents and your children?
Well, it all starts with surrender, like we talked about, and it's also prayer. So, to me, not praying before I go to work is like not getting dressed. Like, I need my clothes, I need my armor. It's super important, and I, just pray for God's covering. But I'm just super surrendered to His will. I know that. I'm super grateful that I even get the opportunity to get to do what I do, to get to love on kids, and they outlove me. It's like they're the real deal. And to just be able to be there, and I like to say that, I'm an expert. I made so many mistakes. I'm an expert on what not to do. And so because of that, I'm able to come alongside and just encourage and love on families. When you know how we talked about how God just turns everything and uses it for good, and just because of the pain and things that I had to walk through, I have true compassion for people. And so being able to share with them and love on them and encourage them, and you could always see the hand of God in everything. And so sometimes people just need you to point it out. And so I believe that God calls us, to be a light, to be the light on a hill, the salt of the earth. And so He equips me literally every day to do it. I have to die to myself because I can be bratty. I can be so bratty. And I always say, God, just stop me. It's not about me. He gives me the resources to share. He lets me partner with Him, and everything I have is because of Him. And so I live for the audience of one, and I know that He loves those kids more than I do, and I don't want to mess up, but I truly love them.
Yeah, I see it. And you steward well everything that you've been entrusted with. The Lord has entrusted you with much, and you continue to steward that well in every area, encouraging and supporting and building up these tiny minds and hearts and ears, and just giving when the Lord tells you to give, and build when He says build, and take ground where He says to take ground. You just continually steward well everything that He has entrusted with you, your relationships and your time and your talent and your treasure. And I really admire that. I think that's such a beautiful thing.
It's a huge investment what we're doing. It's generational. It's not just the ones that are here today. But it's when they grow up, how are they going to raise their kids? And just being able to be in that place when they're younger is so great. And I just pray that they'll be able to continue to walk it out and make their choices based on knowing their worth and their value, because God created them exactly to be who they are. So what do you think is going to be in the next chapter of you working in the marketplace?
So I think that, that's a great question.
I know that you have this best-selling book, Extraordinary Engineers, the great stories that were told in there. I was so encouraged by them, I read it twice.
Thank you.
And you've already started receiving applications for the second book. So this is so God has you doing like all this stuff, and it's not just limited to one, but He's wherever you're willing to go, He's taking you. So what else do you see happening?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that, we were created by Him, the ultimate creator. And that's what a part of our nature is, to create. And so I always try to create and give back and open up opportunity where I can. And so that is a lot of the heart behind this book that will be a series, and working on volume 2 is to create something to give our next generation, create legacy, to capture who these extraordinary women are changing the world around us right now. And also, I hope that it's a valuable tool. So I do want to see in this next season more and new life in a new way in volume 2. I think that there's more people's stories that need to be shared. There's more exciting and inspiring women out there that I want to capture and give as a resource to our next generation. I also want to grow in my expertise in my field and continue to grow in a greater capacity in that way. I just recently got my technical assessor authorization, where I will be able to do peer assessments, is what they're called, and essentially auditing labs outside of ours. For other companies that do similar to what we do. So go in and auditing them. And so I want to grow in that way and be able to bring the kingdom in a greater capacity, be able to share His attributes of love and kindness and joy wherever we go. Because you literally see atmospheres shift.
Yes.
When you walk in with that spirit of joy, you see the atmosphere shift from maybe something that's harsh and hard to a little lighter and more joyful, being able to walk out the assignments that we need to do in just a more joyful way. And so I think being able to do that in a greater capacity is something that I want to do. Also, having the flexibility to be present with my family, being able to be there and be a present mom and help my daughter in every way that she needs help. I think that's really, really important, and just something that I am so grateful that I have the opportunity to be a mother and the gift that is. And so really just being intentional there as well.
And you are, and you do, and you will continue to do that. I love how you do that every part of your life. So we want to thank you for joining us today. We encourage you that wherever you are at in the marketplace, whatever journey you're on, that God has called you to be there and that you could make a difference. So keep your eyes on Him, keep your ears tuned into Him, and be a blessing, as I'm sure you are.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Radiant Pearls Ministries. Remember, you are cherished, you are loved, you are valued, and you have strength, you have hope, and you have loveliness. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
We've got